Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Post-Thanksgiving, slow down, trying to get it under control here. Fresh haircut, fresh feel, and a lot to cover today because, you know, I was gone for a couple days and the world kept spinning. I hope you all had a restful break. I was mostly detached from social media. I mostly was able to avoid the information that, keeps flying in. My buddies didn't stop. So I just, like, my group chat full of suspendables was just nonstop. Just like, what is this guy about? How come he's tweeting at 5 a.m.? Like, Dan Bongino, blah, blah, blah. So I got all that all week. But I did get to spend some time with my family, and my folks came into town, which was really nice. And I ended up spending more time than not working on an RV that's not mine. And maybe you guys are the same way that I am, but I actually love working on projects, even if they're not my projects. I like seeing a problem, addressing what the solution is, and then fixing it because I can. I feel like that's a real masculine instinct. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. But like, there are parts of the world that are not right and they're small, but I can address them with the skill set I have. So we replaced a microwave and we swapped out some batteries. We chased down some electrical gremlins. I don't know. I enjoy that. So I just want to say thanks to my folks for coming in. And I think they're probably listening right now too. And that's nice. That doesn't mean that the world didn't continue on with the gruesome and sad reality. We had 2 National Guardsmen shot the day after we went off air, or like maybe that afternoon. And so I've been following all that, and I'm going to share some thoughts on it. I'm going to share a problem that has existed and I've been aware of, and our members of Congress should be aware of, since November of 2021. And that's kind of heavy too, because all of this stuff, and I don't know why I was put in the position in the world that I was, and it's not about me, but doggone it, like, I have seen all the things that have been screwed up in this country firsthand. I saw the Summer of Love, both in DC and in Portland. I saw the response to the questions about election interference in 2020. I was part of the agency that decided not to investigate it. That's crazy. There were people right in my squad that were asking the same questions that many of you were. I saw the disastrous withdrawal of Afghanistan, and I saw them bring people into this country unvetted that had no business being here, that were culturally incompatible. And then I saw them up close in a way that most of you never would or could, or, luckily had to. Some of you saw it overseas. I saw them bring overseas to this country, and that's bizarre. And I brought it to my member of Congress, and I was reflecting, and I didn't even post about it on social media or anything else, but my last day as an FBI agent in any meaningful way happened on November 22nd of 2021. And that was the day before Thanksgiving. Now, Thanksgiving's on a different day this year, obviously, and we just had it a couple days ago. But I was, the day before Thanksgiving, I took my badge off for the last time. I don't know if I've shared that on this program before. I've got a picture of it. Sometimes I post it on social media. Sometimes I don't, depending on the year. I pulled the badge off my belt, and I took it out of the little leather carrier, and I stuck it on the pin in the bulletin board at my due desk when I got there. But it sat in the drawer when I was on suspension for 3.5 months, when I wasn't allowed to come in because of COVID policies. So all this stuff is it's one, it's during the holiday season. I remember it. And then 2, it's really poignant to me because it all happened November, December, and January of 21 and 22. And it feels like I'm going through all that again, especially when we start seeing Afghans who came into this country during that time period and have been released and have been wandering around on their own recognizance. And I've just been wondering, when is that time bomb going to go off? And it looks like the first part of it went off this last week. So we're going to cover that. And in the meantime, the agency that I left is in shambles. We lobbied aggressively to get certain people to be in charge of it as the Trump administration was making that transition last year. And we got those people. And they are screwing the pooch. They are absolutely failing at one of the most important things that needed to be done, this de-weaponization of the American federal government, the danger. And the left is not slowing down. Like, they don't stop doing what they do. So I've got a series of emotional propaganda that I want to play, and the mindset that is getting built up by people that are, quote unquote, resisting the Trump agenda. And then we're going to talk about the death of the National Guards woman. I think that's the right way to say it. The soldier and the other who's in critical condition that were shot last week. And then move that into the failure of our counterterrorism, our sort of premier law enforcement counterterrorism organization that should be looking into this, but they're not able and they can't do it. And so the fact that they fail is predictable to me. And I've been trying to share that for years on this program. Pre-crime doesn't work. You can only investigate after the fact. If you try to do pre-crime, what you're going to do is incentivize a government agency to set up people like you and like me and like anybody else that thinks that the government should not be in our business and not be spying on us. And you get things like January 6th. And we've got, again, a January 6th pipe bomb story that I think will blow your mind if you didn't follow it on The Blaze, and many of you probably did not. So that's where we're going to go, and it's going to be a heavy show because of that. And it's a good reminder while you're thinking about things that are heavy. Christmas is coming up. Gift giving is a big deal. Preparing yourself is something that we have limited finances for, and perhaps you have not partaken of the emergency food situation. Maybe you've not gotten yourself set up. This is a really cool opportunity to be able to give yourself the gift of food security and then also give gifts to people that you love. So how about that? This is the buy one, gift two Christmas special from My Patriot Supply. The website is mypatriotsupply.com/Kyle. This is a really great Christmas special, actually, in a lot of ways, because you can take care of yourself and your friends and family all month long. If you buy one of the emergency food kits, you're going to get 2 more kits for free to give as a gift. So that's right. You can get a 4-week emergency food kit for yourself, and they will throw in 2 additional 1-week food kits that you can hand out to friends and family who can bug out and head towards you if need be. The 1-week kits make a perfect gift for anybody who's on your list. It's small enough to be able to send to them. It's a little nudge to get them in the right direction. 1 week is a good start. It beats nothing, and you guys can hand this out to people that you love. It makes sense to have stored food in an emergency. Most of us remember that from 2021, from 2020, during the summer of love and the COVID nonsense. If you guys have not gotten yourself squared away, it gives you an opportunity to set yourself up for success and those that you love as well. mypatriotsupply.com/KYLE. Again, mypatriotsupply.com/Kyle. There is a link in the show description. This is a Christmas season only offer. I like it. I like the idea of preparing those around you that you love and then also preparing yourself. That is the right attitude. That's the put your own mask on first and then adjust the air mask for those around you. All right, check them out. And let's get into today's program right now. So for those of you that are in the chat, you guys may realize, first of all, if you are listening after the fact, you don't know that I was like 7 or 8 minutes late. The weekend recovery shows coming back in on a Monday are the hardest podcast for me to do. And not because I don't know what to talk about, but because there's so much that I have to actually cut left and right and not have every single thing that I think is important. There's some wild stuff from Jasmine Crockett. There's some strange things coming out of New York that I wanted to cover down on. There's like there's a whole host of topics that would make a great podcast coverage, and I've got video clips along with them. And so my mornings on Mondays are like, how much is going to end up on the cutting room floor? And a lot. So we're going to have a lot of material to cover this week. Make sure you stick around. As I said, the opening piece here and where we're going to eventually end up is the story of this shipwrecked federal agency that I used to work for. And I went, and first of all, I really love shipwreck pictures, and I really love pictures of old rust buckets that have run aground in places. And I found this one, and it's kind of haunting. What it represents is the potential, the capabilities of human innovation to do incredible things like traverse the oceans, and then how little focus it takes for just a short period of time for it to all go sideways. And to find yourself on the rocks with this hundreds of thousands or millions or even tens of millions of dollar vessel just destroyed. So shipwrecks to me always represent the potential unrealized, the hope which is this is the season of hope and Advent, and the human instinct towards failure because we blew it. And I know there's a lot of people that are preying on this right now. If you're just listening on the audio portion, you're going to miss a little bit of the video here. I think you'll get the gist of it because of the music. I think you'll get the gist of it because of the emotionality of it. There are some words on there, and I may even add in so I can read the captions for you. I don't want to ruin the experience for people that are just watching. But if you have not checked this out on Spotify, that may be a good time to do that. Spotify allows you to flip between audio and video, and I think that's actually really helpful. This video was put out, and it's starting to air on podcast locations. It's going to probably be on social media sites and so on. This is a video that is meant to demoralize our federal law enforcement. The goal is to make people during this time of emotion, and I don't know if you guys have that, but like November and December are more emotional for me than other months. Maybe it's the turn of the weather. Maybe it's the proximity to family. Maybe it's watching my children and the excitement they have about unpacking a tree and putting up all the, yeah, we have a plastic tree, and putting up all the ornaments, which they did yesterday. And they get psyched just to find out that there's a box full of Christmas lights that they forgot we had from last year. And I've been looking at it in the garage every single week when I go clean the damn garage. They're so excited about putting it up. And so there's this childlike excitement and hope. And then there's that adult moment of like all the responsibilities don't go away. The weather starts getting a little bit less friendly outside. The stores, people start having less patience. And maybe for some of us who remember an earlier time in the 60s and the 70s, me, the 80s and the 90s, I look back and I remember it being different. Maybe it's because we didn't have screens and we didn't have as much TV and social media and all the other kind of crap and the internet that goes along with it. But this country doesn't look the way that it did when I was younger. Part of it is because we flooded our southern border with a bunch of people, and we also flew in a bunch of people from places like Afghanistan. We imported a huge chunk of the third world. And so some of those folks have assimilated like they always do. And some of them have not. And they have actually brought our standard of living down. So when I look at my kids during this season, I wonder what it's going to be like for their kids. It hits me. It's an emotional gut punch that just feels like we are not handing a better America to the next generation. And the other thing that does is it absolutely enrages me. And it makes me not sad, but angry. And I think I'm not alone in that sensation. We're carrying around this thing. It's like, just give me a reason. I see people driving like garbage in their tiny cars. And I'm like, I've got a big old diesel truck. I will throw you off the road here because you are making my country worse than it was. I see people in stores that are not acting appropriately. And I start wondering, what made you think that you can act like this? And why have you not run into the consequences of like a grown-up adult male who's going to stop you in your tracks? So I carry around all that stuff, the emotionality of it and the nostalgia and the rage of it. And this video taps into it. It enrages me that somebody thought this was acceptable to put out there. We have free speech in America. You are allowed to express your opinion. I will fight to the death for that. I might also fight you for putting things out like this. So tune into it. And again, if you need to switch over to video, this is the time to do it so you can see it. It's full of like emotional images of little kids and they're being separated from their parents and they came here illegally. And my sympathy level for this is low. My anger is high.
You will be caught. You will be removed. And you will never return.
Got a little coloring. Dad's coming home. His handcuffs on his belt.
Daddy, how's your day?
It says ice on his sleeve. What will you say is the caption when she hears you ask about your day. Crying abuelos.
A mask can't hide you from your neighbors, your children, and God. They'll know. You can walk away before the shame follows you home.
Daddy, how's your day?
It says, what will you say paid for the Women's March win. Okay. Isn't it interesting that they decided to invoke that your neighbors and your God will know what you did? What is that? That's an appeal to community, your neighbors, and an appeal to your submission to a higher power, religion. And the left hates both of those things as far as I can tell. They have destroyed communities. They have destroyed the sense that communities are supposed to support each other. And they have asked you to rely on a federal government which does not love or care for you at all and doesn't know your name. Isn't that something? I don't know. It's really hard for me to take them at face value when they look like this and they sound like this. This woman is the governor of Oregon. And they're out there trying to make you play by the same rules that you would hold yourself to, and yet they've forgotten that there's no love in bringing people into this nation to only experience a fugitive lifestyle. I don't know how else to explain it. Some of you have not seen this. The argument that the left should take on when it comes to illegal aliens being here is that we brought them in and we created a captive victim population. The people that came here illegally, that decided to follow, whether it be the Biden administration bringing them in or the Obama before them, or honestly, any open borders policy that has existed for the last 25 years or so. That transformation to act like we somehow owe them something. And you can go and read the stats, and it says something like 40% of non-citizen households are receiving public assistance. That is insane and wild to me. I've got a video from the Attorney General of Oregon. Apparently, Oregon wants to be leading the charge for the stupidity right now. But we brought these people in. We set them up for failure. They don't have language. They don't share culture. They didn't do the hard work that it would take to show that you'd be successful in this country. They just skipped the line. And then they come here, and because they know that they can be deported, they're afraid of law enforcement. They're afraid of interacting with law enforcement, and therefore they are a perfect captive victim population. They have a few bad apples that come in with every one of them that are really, really, really nefarious bad guys. And it doesn't matter what gang is the gang du jour. But they prey on these people that know that they cannot run to a law enforcement officer at the state or the federal or the local level and get safety, because they're going to expose that they don't belong here. To target and act like the bad guy is, in fact, the ICE agent that's doing the work and enforcing our federal law makes me want to puke. It's absolutely disgusting. It's nauseating. And so here's the governor of Oregon. Her name is Tina Topek, I think. She is a woman married to another woman. She is looking as best she can like a man and doing the exact opposite of what men do, which is this sort of suicidal empathy. And I want to play you her little video here.
Hello, Oregon. Governor Kotek here. I want to talk with you about something that should concern every one of us. I believe, as you do,
Listen to the
in
music
the rule
too.
of law and keeping our community safe. We also believe in being a welcoming place where our immigrant and refugee communities help our state thrive.
Of course.
The ongoing violent actions of the Federal Department of Homeland Security are unacceptable, going after Oregonians and stoking fear in the name of immigration enforcement, but using excessive force, reckless tactics, and even putting bystanders and local law enforcement in danger. It's not how public safety works, and it's not okay in Oregon. No government agency is above the law. I fully support the AG and local DAs who have put the federal government on notice. Oregon is monitoring all ICE actions closely. We will investigate misconduct, and if a federal officer breaks Oregon law, they will be held accountable, just like anyone else. I will not tolerate reckless or unconstitutional behavior in our state. While ICE activity has seen an uptick in recent weeks, so is the commitment of Oregonians to show up for each other, taking care of their neighbors, and standing up when they see something that isn't right. Thank you for doing that. Let's continue to work together to defend the safety, dignity, and rights of every Oregonian. Thank you.
Okay, so we got emotional music. We got an appeal to call out the federal government. And does anyone there actually know what constitutes constitutional or unconstitutional actions? She made an awful lot of statements that seemed like they were factual assertions, that there was something that was going on that's wrong. And yet nobody can really call out what it is that is actually wrong. There is no real example of the unlawful order. There is no example of the aggressive use of force that's inappropriate. What was it? What are the specific examples of using too much force? Force is a continuum, generally speaking, and I know ICE does the same thing that all the other federal government agencies do. You can use certain amount of force right up front, and then you have this sort of this escalation that is required depending on how people behave. In the law enforcement academies, they call it ask, tell, make. Try doing that with your kids, by the way. It's really unpleasant. It's not fun. Nobody gets joy out of doing ask, tell, make. But it's required. You have to do it. Because if you just speak and talk and ask, they know that you have nothing else to move up to. And so force sometimes is required. Breaking a window is required. If they give you an opportunity to roll down the window and you don't want to do it, you're now putting the officer's life at risk. The federal agent's life at risk. I've got friends out there doing this mission. It's not a bad mission. And they may not grab all the best people that are like the worst of the worst. But if they're grabbing people that all violated law, that all at some level, those people are here and they are either sucking off the government teat, which is our money, or they're stealing from somebody by stealing an identity so they can work and they can support themselves. And they don't belong here. It's real simple. I've got the AG of Oregon I'm going to play in just a second because he was crying about SNAP benefits. And it's this empathy is bizarre and it's really, really poorly placed. But these vague and nebulous claims are the same reason, and I don't think that this is the inciting incident for an Afghan going and shooting at people in Washington, D.C., but I do think it changes the way that shooting is received by people who lean politically left, because they are being flooded with the idea that the people who are enforcing the rules are, in fact, the bad guy. This is Ben Shapiro's Republicans pounce thing. It's like somebody did a violation, but the reaction to it was mean. Ask, tell, make means first I'm going to say, please step out of the car. And the next say, step out of the car. And then the last one is I break the window and I pull you out of the car. That has to be done. I do it with my son, by the way. It's like, do the thing. Go listen to your mom. Please. Son, you got one chance. And then I'm going to physically grab him and do what needs to be done. We teach them that. There have to be consequences. Otherwise, we live in a world where they're like people just get out of line. And then they run into somebody who is going to actually enforce the law, and that's when things get really dangerous for them. We've trained a lot of the people that we've brought into this country with the exact opposite sort of mentality. They think that they can just do whatever they want for as long as they want because they got here in the way that they wanted. And the other side is over there crying about illegal orders, hypothetically speaking, not real illegal orders, but just if there were some. And they always go back to, you know what's funny? They're all going to Nuremberg right now. The unlawful orders that the Nazis carried out. Do you know who also saw that parallel? Every FBI whistleblower, every person that resisted COVID tyranny. We all saw a direct line to the government is going to ask you to do something to your own body that you did not consent to. I was one of those people. I wrote to FBI senior officials at the time. And guess what? The Bureau has fired the guy that got my letter saying that what you are doing is evil and what you are doing is like the Nazis, the good Germans in the Third Reich. They fired that guy for the reasons that I said he was wrong. And do you know what they're also doing? They're fighting my lawsuit tooth and nail. And this is one of those reasons why personally, for me, I can always tell there is no change in what our federal government mostly does. You can change the management. You can put somebody new in. You can put a Pam Bondi. You can put a Kash Patel in. You can put a Kristi Noem or a Corey Lewandowski. You can go and swap out the people in there. But the one the animal that exists there, that basically is the entirety of the animal, it just got a haircut and maybe some lipstick. It did not change the nature of that beast. This is Ginger Goebbels. This is Jen Psaki's show. She's talking to an attorney about the Pentagon investigating Senator Mark Kelly. I'm not crazy about that one way or another. But it's this movement towards bringing up Nuremberg is very ironic to me, because this is the same lady that defended the treatment of all of the folks that were in the federal government that got kicked out under the military, under the uniform service, and under the civilian service over COVID mandates, which were also illegal. And they were obviously illegal at the time. And they can't even name the illegal order. I can tell you the illegal order. It was an executive order. And it was told that we were all going to go get this thing or you would be removed from your job. You guys listen to this argument.
What do you think, as a lawyer, what do you think the consequences should be for people who are abiding by following these steps from the commander-in-chief when they seem to be complete overreaches of power?
They're following unlawful commands from Donald Trump. And if you're committing offenses and your defense is going to be, I was just following orders. You know, that didn't work out so well at Nuremberg. It certainly didn't work out so well for Lieutenant Calley when he, engaged in mass murder, the My Lai massacre. And, Pete Hegseth just doing whatever Donald Trump tells him to do, like initiating a criminal investigation that could result in a court-martial of Senator Kelly for simply stating accurately what the military law provides, or Kash Patel's FBI opening criminal probes of members of Congress for speaking the truth. That is something that will someday, when the rule of law comes back into the light of day, will have to be tackled. They'll have to be held accountable for those abuses.
It's going to be accounting for all of this and remembering all of it. Glenn Kirshner, thank you so much for being here.
It's so amazing. There's going to be an accounting. I thought that we were now getting the accounting for the people that did the wrong thing then. How many of these service members that were kicked out under Executive Order 14042 have been reinstated? How about people made whole because of the lawsuits that we have over Executive Order 14043, which kicked me out of the FBI? It was reversed under Executive Order 14099. They stopped it. They acknowledged, basically, in the Fifth Circuit, that it was going to be unlawful and they didn't want to have that case law. Has it been corrected or rectified? Have any of us seen that justice? The answer is no. And so we're seeing this push to delegitimize legal actions and to hypothetically be concerned about non-real actions that have not taken place. And this is before the shooting of the National Guard troops happened. This is a former CIA case officer. This is Representative Slotkin talking. She says, I'm really afraid that these guys are going to overuse their authority. Not that there's any examples of that happening, but just if they did, you can imagine how bad it would be. And so they've set up this justification so that if somebody does act out, they're the good guys. What a horribly un-American, disgusting way to set up going into the Christmas season. And now two families, one is praying for a man to survive, and another family lost a daughter because of this types of rhetoric.
Look at these videos coming out of places like Chicago. It makes me incredibly nervous that we're about to see people in law enforcement, people in uniform military get nervous, get stressed, shoot at American civilians. It is a very, very stressful situation for these law enforcement and for the communities on the ground. So it was basically a warning to say, if you're asked to do something, particularly against American citizens.
Okay, so you're asked to do something particularly against American citizens, then what? It's legal or it's not legal. Yeah, you're not allowed to follow an unlawful order. Where were you guys when there were unlawful orders that were very specifically enforced? I think it matters. I think it matters that your record is clean. I can look at what I have done and what I was asked to do, and I can say, yeah, they told me I was going to do something. I said no, and then I didn't. And then after that, everything else is negotiable. It's like, fine, you guys can do whatever you want. I told them that at the time. Fire me if that's what you think is justifiable. I'll fight it in court, or don't. What they did was the most cowardly thing. You guys may not realize this, for those of you that were not involved in one of these mandates that happened at the governmental level. The federal government just started finding other reasons to come after us. So when was that corrected? Meanwhile, again, these people out there crying and setting up a sympathetic moment. I want to talk about a couple of these little sympathetic moments. The first one is coming from CBS. This is a story. I'm just going to read some of it. The Trump administration has paused all immigration applications from Afghans after the National Guard shooting in Washington, D.C. This is a couple days old now. Federal immigration authorities said on Wednesday, just before Thanksgiving, that they have paused processing requests from all Afghan nationals after a man who entered the United States from Afghanistan, identified as the subject in the shooting of 2 National Guard members in D.C. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services said in a statement that the processing of all immigration requests relating to Afghan nationals has stopped indefinitely pending review of security and vetting protocols. If only someone like my friend Aaron Stevenson had brought that up. If only someone had actually said, hey, you know what, we've got kind of a problem here, and we've got a bunch of unvetted people in this country, and we let them through the gates, and they got on planes, and they flew out here. Well, Aaron lost his job over calling that out. And I also called that out in October of 2021. I brought it to my member of Congress. Some of you guys may have seen me on Friday. I went on with Viva Frey, and we were talking about the situation on the ground in the Afghan refugee camps. We had 10,000 of them at Fort Bliss, Afghan refugees or parolees, future parolees. We had another 10,000 of them at Holloman Air Force Base. We were absolutely surrounded by these people, 20,000 in an area that had about 200,000 people living in Doñana County, as I recall. We brought in a huge number of them. Their culture was incompatible. Their understanding of American rule and law was non-existent. They got no briefing. The State Department didn't want to handle it. Nobody came in and solved any of the problems preemptively. And so we are just going to be cleaning up the mess because they let dozens of these guys just walk off. They were military-aged men, flown in on military jet, skipped all the normal vetting, had phones and cash, and they walked off the bases. They got into cars like Ubers, or maybe a buddy picked them up on the highway, and they drove off into America. And so the question that George Hill, who is a 30-plus year senior intelligence analyst who spent his lifetime looking at this threat, the thing we were asking was, when do these time bombs start going off? When does it happen? My guess is you don't do it while the door's still open. You wait until nobody else can get in before you start sounding the alarm. And now we're in a spot where this can go down. And now we care about vetting. Apparently 2 days prior to the vetting crisis or the awareness of this, we've had people step up and realize like, hey, maybe we got a real problem here, huh? So I want to play you guys some of the historical discussion about vetting, kind of the lies on camera and on tape. We had spokespeople going out and lying. We had people under oath saying something a little bit closer to reality. And it's a, 4-year-old problem now? September, October, November, December of 2021. And now here we are. We're going to be reaping, or we're harvesting the fruit of those nasty seeds that we planted. All right. One of the things that is not particularly violent, but it can also really destroy your experience of the holidays is being defrauded and scammed. I'm going to do a quick ad read here for my friends over at Patriot Protect. The website is patriot-protect.com/KYLE, patriot-protect.com/Kyle. Folks, there was a Gmail breach that exposed millions. People had personal data on there. 183 million user accounts, including email passwords, were stolen. They are circulating online. That means that if you share that with your bank account or anything else, then you may have the possibility of having your data shared or sold, which is not great. The leaked Gmail logins came from criminals who have compiled people's personal data. And where do they get them? They get them from data brokers, the people search websites, public databases. I found FBI Director Kash Patel's private cell phone number online yesterday. That's how easy these things are. Your name, your phone number, your address, your workplace, oftentimes your family members are all on the open web, and they are fuel for hackers and scammers. Anybody who wants to target you, if you want to fix that glitch, if you want to make sure that you are removed from those search results, sign up for someone. We use Patriot Protect here in the Seraphin House. My family does. My parents do as well. Patriot-protect.com/KYLE. There are hundreds of data broker websites selling your data for nothing more than clicks. If you guys want to make sure that you are removed out of there, they are working on it 24/7. They constantly scan the web, and you have to give them information so they know what to go find, and then they get it taken down. Patriot-protect.com/KYLE. The promo code right now is BF, like Black Friday 50. BF 50. Can you see it on the screen? BF, Bravo Fox 50. You'll get half off. This is, as far as I can tell, the best sale they do at the year. If you guys want to sign up, this is the time to do it. If you've been on the fence, this is when you make that call. Jump in and do it for half the money. Definitely a decent option. And again, what you'll get is a lot less robocalls. You'll get a lot less of the scammers. They still may show up over in your social media feed. You still may get Nigerians who want to tell you that they love you, but maybe you can remove yourself from the pile, from the real dirty stuff, which can really ruin your holiday. Nothing worse than that. All right, we're going to press on. Again, this sort of this suicidal empathy, it took place at the time. In addition to Republicans, there were also Democrats who were also kind of looking at it and saying they're concerned. But what did we actually import? We had a bunch of ladies who looked like this. This is the governor, again, of Oregon, who brought in a bunch of people that we could not vet. And everybody talked about it, and nobody did anything about it. And when those of us who brought it to Congress, like I did, said, hey, I can personally attest to the fact that we have absolutely no idea who's coming to this country. Quick story before I play I have a clip from Byron Donalds, 2021. We're going to go back in time 4 years. 4 years ago, I did an interview with a woman who apparently had been physically or sexually assaulted. It was unclear. We were doing a major crime investigation. This was down at Fort Bliss in the Doniana complex. And as we were trying to get an interpreter to find out information about this woman and what she was alleging, we had her ID. The ID said that she was from Afghanistan. She was from some specific province. She was born in whatever year, and she was 23 years old at the time. Sorry, 25 years old. And so we're asking her basic stuff because we're taking notes. Okay, says your name is this. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, you were born here. Is that correct? Yes. When did you come to the United States? Okay, 3 weeks ago. Fine. Okay, that was about this date. Yes. Okay. Through an interp. Says you're 25. She goes, no, I'm not 25. And we're doing basic biographical information. So, well, how old are you? And she said, well, I'm 23. And I was like, well, your ID says you're 25. Can you explain that? Interpreter says it over. She goes, yeah, I went up to the ID desk, and it was either in Qatar or it was in Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. They had like all these NGOs and State Department reps there. She says, the woman who was at the desk told me that I was too tall to be 23. So she wrote down that I was 25. They changed my birthday. That's how serious our background and our vetting was done. The people who were writing down the IDs, the government officials over there who spoke the language, just made it up willy-nilly, wholesale, and decided like, well, you're from the country and you're too ignorant to know even when you were born, so we're just going to say a different date. We had no information on these people. And then there was this big claim that we did. So let me show you the claims.
When it comes to all the people who are now being taken out of there, what about vetting? And are you concerned about vetting all of these people?
Oh, I am. This is a serious problem because, of course, you're going to have some of the terrorist element, which unfortunately is coming back into Afghanistan as we speak. They're going to try to secrete themselves amongst the people who want to evacuate. One of the things that we have to make sure we understand is that documents are checked. There might be biometric information that from people who've actually worked with our military that we can vet them through that process. But that needs to be done offshore at a different base overseas before people even begin to come to the United States. There's going to be a lot of resettlement that needs to occur. But let's be very clear about this. We do have a responsibility to the Afghans who actually gave their lives and either put their families in harm's way to help us and assist us in our mission. We have a responsibility to do what needs to be done for them. Whether that's coming all the way to the United States is not totally clear.
Yeah, we have a responsibility to the Afghans. And apparently some people thought about it that we were more responsible to them than we were, I guess, to the people that are actually from here. Is that possible? Did we have members of our elected legislators say that the Afghans, like it was our moral responsibility to bring them over here and that we should sacrifice the vetting, bring them in? I don't know. You listen. What do you think about this guy saying something like that?
We're going to get this done. This is the right thing to do. There's no other ending that is acceptable to me. The people who were there with us in the fight that are here in America need to stay. This will be their new home, so we have a moral obligation to these people. They will make great citizens over time.
They're going to make great citizens over time. I suppose that's true. Some of them probably will. Some of them probably will not. Because there's some violence that was done. But at least we vetted them, right? We did vet them.
There are, of course, concerns among lawmakers, experts who've tracked this. We're saying previous arrivals of large numbers of refugees from different parts of the world, inevitably there may be a small handful who are eventually deemed a security risk of some kind. What reassurances can you make about the screening process and the attempts to make sure that somebody like that doesn't make his or her way here?
I can absolutely assure you that no one is coming into the United States of America who has not been through a thorough screening and background check process.
There are, of course.
Oh, so there are concerns, and the question is did they actually do those background checks? She just assured us. That's the White House spokesperson. They can't lie to you, can they? What about when you're under oath?
The standard procedure is an in-person interview for refugees or visa applicants. Now, you've testified that you're not doing those interviews.
Not at all.
That they're not happening.
You are correct that we are not conducting in-person full refugee interviews of 100% of the individuals.
What percentage are you conducting?
I don't have that information.
What number have been interviewed?
What we are doing.
Wait. What number of the more than 60,000 brought to the country? What number have received an in-person interview before they came to the country? Because you said 100% are screened. So what percentage have been given an actual interview by a trained official before they come to the country?
When you're speaking of a full refugee-like interview, I don't have that data.
By the way, are you following what's happening to people who've been brought to this country? On September 19th, a female U.S. service member was assaulted by a group of male Afghan evacuees housed at Fort Bliss. September 5th, a report from your office, the DHS, from U.S. officials at intake centers in Wisconsin identified numerous incidents in which Afghan girls have been presented to authorities as the underage wives of much older men. Other reports of assaults and rapes by Afghan men for Afghan girls. These are some of the folks who've been brought here because they haven't been screened, because you haven't conducted interviews. Don't you think that's a problem?
There are two things that can happen. They can be criminally prosecuted depending on the reason for their violation.
Mr. Secretary, my time's expired. I've got to turn it over to other senators. I just want to say the fact that you are not conducting the most standard interviews for tens of thousands of people brought to this country is astounding to me. And it seems to me you've not learned the most basic lessons that we learned on 9/11 since then. And the security risk is unbelievable. Thank you.
Yeah, the security risk is unbelievable to the point where it's hard to actually believe it. What's also crazy is, like so many of the things that have happened, again, I don't know how I ended up in the place that I did. I don't know why I touched as many of these stories as I did personally. But I was one of maybe 8 FBI agents that was sent down to Fort Bliss to interview the Afghans that were alleged to have sexually assaulted a female service member in El Paso at Fort Bliss. That was one of my jobs. That was one of the last things that I did as an investigative agent. That was one of the last actual investigations that I was involved in. And the reason why, and I covered this on Viva's podcast the other day, so if you guys saw this, just bear with me, if you will. The reason that we went down there is because no one knew what to do. He just said, well, if they've violated certain laws, then they could be criminally prosecuted. Yeah, but we didn't know what the parameters were. And nobody wanted to own that shit show, that sandwich of garbage. We were all going to eat it. And so State Department was there, and DHS was there, and Homeland Security Investigations. We had the Department of the Army and CID, which is Criminal Investigations. We had Air Force OSI, Office of Special Investigations. We had all of these agencies there. CIA was there, other intel collection agencies, NGA, NRO. Everybody had a seat at the table. Nobody wanted to go up there and deal with these people. So I was tasked with, like I said, a handful of other agents to go, and we had grabbed the guys that were already rounded up by the Army, CID, and the military police on the base. And we interviewed, I don't know, like a dozen and a half, maybe 18, maybe 20 Afghan males that were in the vicinity of and would have had information that was material to the sexual assault of this female service member. And if you guys remember that story, it was a big deal. It went out on Fox News. It was like, Afghan, attempts to rape American soldier. And everyone went like, oh my God, look what they've done. And what's crazy is she made it up as far as we could tell. We did the investigation. We followed every logical thing. The United States Attorney's Office declined to prosecute that case because there was nothing that we could actually find. Her story was incompatible with any sort of realistic remembering of a traumatic event like that. And we weren't allowed to go and do a second follow-up interview after we interviewed all the men. The key parts of it is that she apparently knew the colors of their eyes, could describe what they were wearing, even though it was absolutely like one of the darkest things in the world. She got away from them by fighting, and so she left like physical marks on at least 2 of them. One of them was like scratched really aggressively, and the other one was like kicked in the shin, if memory serves, like a combat boot to the shin, which would have left a big bruise and probably some skin broken because she was fighting for her life. And then she apparently escaped in her car after they were trying to stuff her in her own trunk, and the trunk was closed when she got back over to all of the other soldiers. And we couldn't find shin bruises or scratches on any of the guys that we found. And I don't remember how many times I've been in a fight that I could tell you what the color of the eyes are of the guy that I was fighting with, but she claimed she could. And the last thing was she was black. It was a black female service member, which apparently is not to the taste of Afghan men. Would have been repulsive and that would not have been a target of a sexual assault. You guys tell me. I didn't serve in Afghanistan, but that's what I was told by numerous soldiers who had just gotten back from there, including my partner, who was a Green Beret. So it was all made up as far as we could tell. You know what the crazy thing was? Because that story blew up in the faces of people on the right wing who were ready to go out there and like hammer the Biden administration about it. They're like, you brought in these people and they raped a soldier and look what you've done. And then it was like, oh, then it just went away. You guys go look. The story just disappeared because nobody gave any information and the army didn't want to explain it. And what they did is they quietly found this girl a base that she wanted to go. And the story that we think happened, as far as all the available information, and I'm telling you, I was on the ground doing this investigation. The belief is she made it up because she didn't want to be stationed at Fort Bliss. She wanted to be stationed somewhere else. Fort Bliss is probably not a great place to be a young black female. It's a tough place to be. It's kind of like a desert, and it's closer to Mexico than not. So she got restationed. So she got what she wanted. The right-wing media didn't know what to do. The Congress people, including my Congresswoman, when I was talking to her people, they were like, what happened here? We can't get anyone. We can't get State Department. We can't get FBI. We can't get Homeland Security. Nobody will give us a straight statement. And I'm like, oh, I'll tell you what's going on. I'll explain it to you. And they went like, okay. They were trying to decide how much political capital to go after. You notice it was just a touch right there. Isn't that crazy? That story is wild to me. Here's Blinken talking about the vetting crisis. Again, I think that moment actually stalled out some of the aggression that the right wing had for going after this problem and pointing it out. And we are now going to continue to see what's happening. We're going to see the mistakes being made because they didn't follow these stories then because they got a bad one right up front and it was embarrassing to them.
In our effort to get as many people out as fast as we can, while we had the airport functioning, we focused on doing just that, and we're doing accountings on the back end as people arrive in the United States.
That's your Secretary of State admitting that he didn't care about vetting these folks before we brought them to U.S. soil. And if you thought they would be securely held on U.S. military bases, well, think again. In an Ingram Angle exclusive, Afghan war vet and Congressman Mark Green shared a letter he just sent to Secretary Blinken. I've recently been made aware of someone at Fort Pickett, Virginia, that Afghan evacuees basically have free reign of the complex and have even been allowed to leave despite not having completed the vetting process. My source has made shocking allegations, including multiple incidents of sexual assault, and several evacuees have been picked up by Uber drivers without any permission from authorities or being cleared to leave. Congressman Mark Green joins me now. Congressman, that their records are being looked at on the back end was stunning enough, but what you're reporting tonight is truly shocking.
Laura, it's crazy, and it's not just Fort Pickett. I'm talking to sources that are at multiple locations. You know, the real challenge here is directions from state. You know, DOD is getting its directions on how to handle these situations by the State Department. and the State Department is failing to give them adequate information. They're letting them leave. They can catch an Uber and actually leave the base. They don't know exactly how many are even there, so they can't account for someone if they don't return. And they're telling the people, oh, if you go and you don't come back, well, that will end your visa processing. But if they want free, they're gone. There's nobody keeping them from leaving. And then you get the shocking allegations of harassment and sexual assault, and it's horrific.
All of that is true. All of that was part of my whistleblower allegations or my protected disclosure to my member of Congress. This goes back to October of 2021. I think I made them before this video was even put out. Where did it go? What did they do with that stuff? It wasn't American service members that were in danger from the Afghan populations, at least not at that point in time. It was Afghan women that came in. We had women that were being grabbed by the hair and dragged into some guy's tent, and young girls, and it was like, you're my wife now, because I come from some backwards cave culture. And the woman, was born, a young woman, she'd be a teenager, was born in like a city and had no idea, because Afghan is not really a country. Afghanistan was not a country, as it was explained to me over and over again. It's a bunch of regions that we have one geographic area, but the cultures are very different and the tribes all handle things differently. And so all these people from different places, they were not the same. I had a guy that I was interviewing, and he had worked with the United States State Department. When I was interviewing him, he's like, look, these are not my people. Like, they come from the same region that I do, but we are not the same. He's like, I've grown up with toilets and plumbing, and they crap on the floor wherever they are. And so I go into the showers and it's constantly covered in feces because they don't know any better. And anybody who spent time over there that I've spoken to has shared the same kind of stories. And there were some of them that were like so-called the good guys, right? They were on our team. And there were some that were not. We've been waiting for this time bomb to go off for years, for literally years, some of us. And that idea that they could walk off the base, nobody knew who was there. There was no process. They literally just walked into the desert, walked up to the nearest road, and got into fill-in-the-blank car we didn't know. And none of the gate guards were entitled to stop them. They didn't know what their authorities were. So we had young privates, military police officers that had no idea. How do you handle these people? They're not being detained. They're not restricted to anything. They were brought here legally, but they don't have any legal status, and they just walked off. So it fell through the cracks, and we are going to now deal with how many of these idiots were bad guys at the time, and how many of them have been radicalized by crazy left-wing, hatred that is broadcast across social media and across the broadcast media. There were some bad guys that were well known at the time, so this should have never occurred. This is, I think, Norah O'Donnell talking about it in 2021, that they had identified that they were people that were KSAs, KSTs rather, known or suspected terrorists.
CBS News has learned there are now more than 46,000 Afghan refugees right here in the United States. And we're hearing from law enforcement sources that more than a dozen of them have shown up on terror watch lists. We asked the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security about the vetting process in an exclusive interview.
We screen and vet individuals before they board a plane to the United States. An individual who does not satisfy our screening and vetting protocols is not admitted to the United States. And if, in fact, we learn information subsequently, we place those individuals in removal proceedings so that they are set to leave the United States as swiftly as possible.
So how many people have been removed from the United States for showing up on one of these lists?
We're dealing with very, very few people that have given us any cause for concern.
So that's a no, we don't know. Well, there are people that should have been of concern, I think. I think it would be totally reasonable to expect that. I got more videos, and I want to play them all because this is all evidence of what was happening at the time. If you guys are just listening, check out the podcast on the audio and video option, which is KyleSerafinshow.com. That's how you can get to Spotify. It's real easy. You may hear a Spotify ad right now if you're listening to the audio. You can also support the channel by going to KyleSerafin.com. That's without the show. And then you get the locals. That's our call-in program. If you guys want to call in and talk about it with us, that's great. You can join us there. Lastly, if you're watching on Rumble, or if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're watching on X, make sure you like and you share and you subscribe. We just broke through the 16,000 subscriber barrier over on YouTube, which I don't know if that's particularly notable, but it's cool. Every time I get an email saying that we are adding people to the YouTube channel, you guys are great. So thanks for doing that. And make sure you guys are liking because it bumps us up in the algo. I think we had our best performing video on YouTube ever just before Thanksgiving. So that's kind of encouraging to see that some of this stuff is going to get out there. And I don't know that anybody else has this information, to be fair. I'm not trying to like tout myself in some way, but for whatever reason, God put me in a place where I got to experience some of this stuff firsthand. I'm not reading some script that somebody wrote. I'm telling you, I walked through the dusty streets on Fort Bliss and the Doniana complex, and I walked through Holloman Air Force Base through the temper tents. I watched guys go over and hang out with the CIA case officer that was handing them, goodies and trinkets and trying to get intel so desperately. I saw this with my own eyes. This is not just me guessing about it. There's a lot of people that saw some of this stuff and realized that there were problems. This is a real poignant story. Sean Parnell's going to tell us what the danger was, even of the people that we knew were good guys. For those of you that had an interp that turned on you, that's you're a service member that went to Afghanistan, or maybe you did it in Iraq. I think it was a similar experience in both places where you would have this turn, somebody who'd been with you but was selling you out, a double agent, if you will. That story is ubiquitous to service members as far as I can tell. I'm sure there were some that were really good-hearted and were in the fight for the right reason. And then there were stories like this. And how do you figure out which one was which?
We worked with an Afghan interpreter for over a year. He was on every mission with us. He was on every fight with us. And one day we got tasked with an observation post to watch info routes from Pakistan into Afghanistan. My platoon that day rolled up onto the hill. We wondered why the Afghan villagers all around that hilltop were watching the platoon. Rolled up onto the hill. One of my trucks hit a plastic Italian TC-6 anti-tank mine. It wounded 4 of my soldiers seriously and killed somebody in my platoon. After that mission was over, during our after-action report, we found out that our interpreter, who had been with us every step of the way, someone who we thought was our friend, we learned that he was working with an Iranian IED cell in Pakistan and coordinated the placement of that mine, which killed one of my troops in a devastating attack. Tucker, just because an Afghan works with us and is friends with us does not actually mean they're safe to bring here. And this is precisely why we cannot bring 30,000 unvetted Afghan refugees to the United States of America. It's an irresponsible policy, and quite frankly, I can't believe we even have to have this conversation.
I can't believe we have to have the conversation either, but we brought like 88 to 100,000 of them in. This is a clip from Fairfax County, Virginia, where I used to live. This is a street that I used to drive on. This is a place where I spent 5 years when I was working for the FBI. Fairfax County PD encountered this man in 2025, earlier this year. He was an interp. He worked for our government. He was vetted. He was brought here. He speaks basically fluent English. This is what can go wrong. It could happen to anybody, I suppose. It could be anybody that decides that they're going to just pull out a weapon and try to kill a cop. But this anger and animosity that's harbored, why did we bring these people in? Everything that I know at the time, that I remember, and all my contemporaneous notes at the time said, they brought these people in and they did that withdrawal from Afghanistan because they had rolled out a COVID vaccine policy, and anything they could do once they brought them over and they made that decision, anything they could do to distract from it is what they were going to do. And they were also going to find anybody who wasn't going to be on board with the way that the Biden administration did business. So then they threw us all out. It went disaster with withdrawal. God, what can we do? We've got to take some tension off this. Let's force everybody to get this shot. And make a big thing about people who don't obey orders. This guy made it in.
So you brought me to you fucking people brought me to this goddamn country, and I'm dying every fucking single day, and I have 4 children, and we wholly survive because you're a fucking racist people.
Okay.
Yeah, because I can't get a job. I can't be a fucking dumbass liars, white people. You lied for 25 years. You brought me to this country. I served with special forces. I lost my own fucking brother. I lost my whole everything.
I'm sorry.
I have nothing.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, you're sorry to hear that? No. Don't play that bull. I should have served with fucking Taliban. Better than you. I was concerned and a fucking dumbass fuck when I was concerned about Taliban. But in America, since 2014, I'm concerned more about you people.
How about that? Is that who you want living next door to you? I'm just saying, like, some of these people didn't come over here and feel grateful for the opportunity. This is how that traffic stop ended.
Hey, so listen, American, this is take it. I take this with you, okay?
So now you want to give me that?
Hey, don't you reach it? No. Fuck! Listen, American, this is take it. I take this with you, okay? So no. Hey, don't you reach it? No. This is take it. I take this with you, okay?
So now you want to
No.
Hey, don't you reach it?
No. Hey, don't you reach it? No. You, okay?
So now you want to give me that?
Hey, don't you reach it? No. Fuck!
So, if you were just listening, there were 4 different angles, 4 different body cams, and also the shooter's individual camera that he had rigged up in his front seat so that he could actually capture what was going on there. 2 cops got shot in the arm. The officers lived. That guy died. He was shot in the front seat. Apparently has 4 kids. How are they going to go out there and take that? We brought in an enemy population and brought them in here. Some of whom seemed like friendlies when they came in. How do you survive like that? And we just saw another experience of that. That was in March, I want to say, of this year. And we just had 2 more Americans taken down by Afghans. And listen, are they the number one cause of crime in this country? Of course not. Let's be realistic. They are not the number one cause. They are not the most dangerous thing that's happening. There are plenty more people that are more likely to get involved in violence. And yet, nobody made us bring them in. So what the hell are they doing here? Seems like Donald Trump is trying to get to that level too. And he had some pretty terse words for reporters that were asking him dumb questions. And I actually kind of appreciate this version of Donald Trump. When he just says what everybody else is thinking, like, what the hell's wrong with you people? Here we go.
You've made changes for Afghanis' ability to apply for asylum. Do you blame all Afghans for this one man's
No, but we've had a lot of problems with Afghans because they had a lot of them coming in on these planes. Again, I show you this picture. We had a lot of them coming in on these planes that are, look at them. There was no check-in. They just poured into the plane. And many of these people are criminals. Many of these people are people that shouldn't be here. And many of them have been gotten out. I mean, we've gotten out a lot of the people that, we've taken a lot of them out of here. But they came in, legally, right? Yeah, I know, the old story. Many are wonderful, yeah, I'm sure.
I said many are here legally, though. What should they think in terms of their prospects?
Well, they can't be happy, okay? They can't be happy. Because what's taking place between that, if you look at Somalia, they're taking over Minnesota, and we got a lot of problems with the gangs, with all of the things taking place in Minnesota. We have an incompetent governor, we have a dope governor. They can't be happy about what's going on. And
we're going to cover more about the Somalia thing and the huge fraud and scam that was perpetrated by Somalis that came into the United States under COVID. A lot of these things, they're the same darn sins. They just keep coming back up over and over again. But one of the bigger issues for me is that the dishonest media coverage of it. They just can't get it in their head that we've got bad things that happened in this country. For 4 years, they ran cover for it, and now we're going to start reaping some of the consequences of it, and they're not going to be good. And so, yeah, if you were someone and you were a good person, and I know friends who helped support and sponsor the visas of folks that came in that were, served with them in Afghanistan, put their life on the line countless times, and then came over here and like they make great citizens. One of the guys that we interviewed, this guy that was telling me about people pooping in the showers when we were at Fort Bliss. He had worked with the State Department. I think he held a security clearance. He probably had more access to government information than you did. As a U.S. citizen, he probably had more, and he was not a U.S. citizen. He was a foreign national. And yet, he was a competent programmer, and he spoke a handful of languages. He was a decent kid as far as I could tell. He was in his real early 20s, maybe 20, 21, 22. And I expect he probably gets a job and works in the tech industry and probably makes a decent living. And I got no beef with that. And he was going to be here and he was going to assimilate properly. And he was wearing Western style of dress. And he had I remember some of his sense of humor was even Western because he'd spent enough time in our State Department, our embassy. You know? So that's what we expect of our immigrants. In the meantime, you've got this press corps that just continues to act like something that is garbage, that's not real. You know, and they try to overgeneralize and to try to slander and make you seem like a bigot. Here's Trump doing that. He doesn't seem to take it.
Why do you blame the Biden administration?
Because they let him in. Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person? Because they came on a plane along with thousands of other people that shouldn't be here, and you're just asking questions because you're a stupid person. And there's a law passed that it's almost impossible not to get them out. You can't get them out once they come in. And they came in, and they were unvetted, they were unchecked, there were many of them, and they came in on big planes, and it was disgraceful. And if you look, you'll see there was a law passed. It makes it almost impossible not to let them in, not to certify them, so to speak, once they come in. And they came in, and they shouldn't have come in. And frankly, the whole thing was a mess. The whole Afghanistan situation was a mess. We should.
He's not wrong. It was a mess. It was a mess at the time. That's why I went to my member of Congress and was like, this is not okay. What is happening right now is not right. But then what's the answer to that? Do you deport everybody? Can you? I mean, we may just have to come through the other side of this storm. And the real concern, I think, and this is why this next clip is so frustrating for those of us who have heard it, he's probably right. This is a guy named Wajahat Ali or something, and he writes for the New York Times, and he went to Berkeley, and he's a lawyer, and he got a degree from Berkeley. So he's this like celebrated person on the left. What I think is so gross about this particular clip, because I do think this is the problem. Historically, when people came here, they came to America because they recognized what America was and why it was great. And when we say America, we could even just broaden that to call the West, which now the left has used as a pejorative. They just call it like white culture. This is a culture that is based on Christian values with essentially all of the brilliance of Roman and Greek governance and all the experimentation that happened for hundreds and hundreds of years of trying to figure out how do we get the most free form of government and optimize human prosperity. And it really, like the Roman Empire actually ended up kind of crumbling because of Christianity, because some of their values were not coherent with it. But then you ended up with this shining city on the hill that is America. But I would say that Western Europe in general were like the precursors to that. And you're going to claim that there is no culture there? That it's gross? That it's vapid? Look at this man. He's living in a white culture, his definition, or a Western civilized house with air conditioning, with a ceiling fan, wearing Western dress as I dress, grooming himself the way that I groom myself. He went to a barber who does things that I do on my haircuts. Everything about the way that this guy is living is a testament to that it is better than the shithole country that he came from. He's Pakistani. And he's going to be over here telling us that we're the junk and that they've invaded. He might be right about one thing, though. We did let these people in. And so I don't know that Trump can solve this problem, but it'd be nice if the guy who's supposed to be a fascist and a dictator and authoritarian actually lived like the way that they claim that he is, and they're running all these ICE ads to act like they are. Wouldn't it be nice if he just leaned into that experience? Because it's not like he can be reelected. And it's not like they're not going to go out there and kick him out of office and impeach him when we lose the House and the Senate, when we, the people who had hope that we were going to see change, when that happens in 2027, because I think it will. Anyway, white people, you let them in.
You have lost. You lost. The mistake that you made is you let us in the first place. See, that's the thing with brown people. And I'm going to say this as a brown person. There's a lot of us. Like a lot. There's like 1.2 billion in India. There's more than 200 million in Pakistan. There's like 170 million in Bangladesh. Those are just the people there. I'm even talking about the folks who are expats or immigrants. There's a bunch of us. And we breed. We're a breeding people. And the problem is you let us in 1965. There were a few of us beforehand. But once you let one of us in, you know what happens with brown folks? Our grandmother comes, our grandfather comes, our uncle comes, our aunt comes, our cousin comes, our second cousin comes, our third cousin comes. Then we have kids, a bunch of
Wait, why do they all come here?
kids. And then guess what? Some white women, you know, the Western civilization women, the pure women, the American women, quote unquote, the Rust Belt women, the real women, they like some of us brown folks. We don't take them. They come to us. So we're embedded. We are everywhere. We are everywhere. I've traveled this country. I'm going to speak as a brown person. Brown people are everywhere. There will be a Patel Motel or there will be a Desi restaurant everywhere. I want you to realize this. You have lost. Your story is a shitty story filled with misery. It's filled with bland chicken. It's filled with terrible, terrible dry ass meat. Your music sucks. All your culture sucks.
I just want you to just, again, embrace the fact that he's sitting behind a ceiling fan with air conditioning in a sheetrocked house with a rear porch door that has like a mini blind behind it. He's got art on the wall. Everything about the way that this man lives is the culture that he is now shitting on.
Nobody, that's why the kids like listen to black people and their music. That's why the kids love Latinos. Your parties suck because they're monochromatic. Our parties have better food, better music, better looking women.
That's a hell of a claim, isn't it? That sort of hatred. So the crazy thing that we know to be true is that the left has normalized, accepted racism as long as it's going one direction. And part of it is because we've really failed to push back on this game. Some of us are not going to take it anymore. I'm not interested. Because I've got kids and I'm not willing to hear like that guy's attitude. If he wants to take that to the playground, like you're going to get headbutted. Like I'm not going to be nice and I don't want to be nice. So again, this season where we look around and there are people that are wishing holidays or Diwali or some other nonsensical, non-American, non-Western, like screw you, dude. Russell Brand actually nailed this. I'm going to share this and then we're going to get into the shipwreck. We're building up to why we have an ongoing problem. Like what I think continues to be the biggest symptom, which turns out to be a guy who came here. His parents came here from what? Uganda? Isn't that where Patel's parents came from? Lived the America. Like he likes hockey and he's a guy who likes American money and capitalism. Like we're usually okay with that. But you came here and you didn't do the thing you asked. Instead, you've just decided to try to scam us for everything that we're worth. So I think all of these things actually do relate. It's people that forgot what the idea of America first and or America only and or like figuring out how to solve the problems we have in our own country. And instead of importing a bunch of garbage and people who don't do it right, maybe it's time to shut down the doors, which is kind of what I thought Donald Trump said, not let anybody in and maybe start throwing more people out everywhere. And we're going to be probably covering a lot of that this week. Here's Russell Brand kind of honing in suicidal empathy, using compassion and the general sensibility that we have it so good we should try to lift up other people, which is a Christian principle. It's used against us. And he says it's a hangover from the last century. Very interesting.
Particularly if it fits within the milieu that I've come to recognize as defining our times: control masked as care, convenience to elicit yet further control. That the bureaucracies of our age indeed mask and perhaps are the essence of yet the tyranny of our age. I suppose we still have the hangover of the last century. When I think of despotism and dictators and tyranny and totalitarianism, I think of mustachioed dictators and shiny jackboots and red, white and black flags and Nuremberg and parades and Sturm and Drang. But now totalitarianism comes masked in bureaucracy. Control comes insidiously like a gentle fog under your door, like a warning, we're here to help you. And I suppose I'm alert to that because as a person in recovery from addiction, we of course have to learn about the obvious forms of dependency like drug, alcohol, and then even things like pornography and gambling. But one gets a sense that at the root, or at least more deep than the items I've just listed, is codependency, where relationships become dependent. Now, I believe, of course, as a Christian, that you can only depend on Christ, but the state wants you to depend on the state. And by the state, I mean, the nexus of interest that include global bureaucracies, national governments, corporate and commercial interests. They've become masterful at controlling and centralizing information, and the movement, of which you are obviously a significant part, was a significant breach in their ability to control data. And I think we are now witnessing the reformation of their power. How do they delegitimize information? How do they smear and destroy people that convey true information? And once you know that all they care about is control, because once you have control, you can do what you want. You can profit financially, or you can regulate. Then, once you've understood that, then things become clearer. So I try not to believe in things just because I want to believe in them, because I've gotten to the point, because of, I suppose, anger, where I want to believe that...
Sure. You have a confirmation bias based on some anger and rage.
Yes.
As does the other side.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, he's sitting in a bathrobe. I don't know why somebody does a bathrobe open shirt interview. Russell Brand is a weird dude, but doesn't take away the point that he's making there. Not to me, at least. I just see this. I see this outrageous situation. I also see a government that continues to lie to us. It's not trying to make it better. Somebody brought up over the weekend, hey, what happened to the pipe bomber story? Did it just go away? I'm going to do a hard jump into that, because it's yet one more thing where that group that you were supposed to be able to trust, like law enforcement, we've outsourced vengeance, and we've outsourced the vetting of the foreign nationals that come into this country to a group of people that we think are going to do the job. And some of them would have. Like Aaron Stevenson. He's at DHS Aaron over on X. He's my buddy. He's one of our suspendables. He went to Project Veritas because he realized the government was so broken that they would never take his claim seriously, and he tried to get it out into the world. And the things that he brought forward in 2020 and 2021, they are still ongoing right now. They are still a real problem. So it's not surprising that we are still re-adjudicating the stuff from the last 4 or 5 years, maybe the last 25 years. The growth of government and its improper, like, it's really reached peak form of ugly and disgusting with this story that Steve Baker has been covering so well, and this FBI has tried to cover up. So we're going to do that real quick right now. This is a story from Blaze Media. You guys probably missed this because it was released right at or around either the day before or the day of Thanksgiving, which is a terrible release time. I got to tell you something about the Blaze. I love Steve. I love Joe Hanneman's work. They're doing awesome things when it comes to keeping account. But the people that are the editors and the legal and whoever is their media strategists, I guess they must be the same people that are doing Bongino and Patel's media strategy. They suck at dropping a bombshell story. They're awful at it. Let me read you the headline. Assistant Capitol Police Chief accused by Massey of thwarting congressional J6 pipe bomb investigation retires. That's a shitty headline. Let me give you the real headline. Man who blocked interview of pipe bomb finding Capitol Police officers retires abruptly with no warning. And also, he was the ATF on-scene commander for their bomb squads on January 6th. When we said that this is a multi-government agency cover-up and everybody, like a bunch of them are involved, it's not everybody. It's a small group from each individual agency, but they're all complicit. What you're seeing on the screen is Tom Massey. You're seeing a guy named Sean Benedict. He's wearing the uniform. And you're seeing the 2 Capitol Police officers who found the DNC pipe bomb. For those of you that are not aware of the timeline, I will help you quickly. There was 1 pipe bomb found, and it was like 15 minutes before 1 p.m. on January the 6th. It was found near the Capitol Hill Club, close to the RNC. That's bomb number 1. Bomb number 2 was found about 23 minutes later, 1:05, I think, at the DNC. But the night before, the person that placed it, or the person the FBI says placed it at the DNC, actually visited a bush that was outside the Congressional Black Caucus Institute. That was bomb number 2. So it probably had an original resting place. And so that you understand completely the whole thing that Baker and Joe Hanneman, and we should do probably like an entire show. I'll probably do a special episode where I just break down the timeline for people. My team was watching someone who went and took pictures of the dumpster where the bomb number 1 was found. And then also some other things in DC, which are highly suspicious, and you guys are going to probably find out more of that. It's not my story to tell yet. But there was a belief that there was a primary resting place for bomb number 1, which was going to be at this congressional boarding house, that the pipe bomber sat outside of it, didn't end up placing it there, took a phone call, and then went and placed it behind the dumpster. That's bomb number 1. The second thing is that then the pipe bomber moves on and goes to pipe bomb number 2's original resting place, which was outside the Congressional Black Caucus. That was a bush. We showed that last week or the week before, and then turned around and actually moved it to the final resting place for bomb number 2, which was outside the DNC. They each had a primary and an alternate location, and both bombs ended up at the alternate location. Okay? The cops from U.S. Capitol Police, the counter surveillance units teams that found bomb number 2, they went directly to the bush, which was the original resting place where bomb number 2 was placed. They went to site 1. It wasn't there. Then they went to site 2. Somebody just said they were geocaching. Yeah, like they were running from one GPS point to the other. That's what it looks like they did. And you're seeing them on the screen. I'm going to read you this story. Again, they're so bad at putting the reveal out there. These guys write a great story and they do incredible investigative work, but they just need a better editor to be able to tighten the story up. Sean M. Benedict, who's the assistant Capitol Police chief, that Congressman alleged prevented 2 special agents involved in the discovery of the pipe bomb at the DNC from testifying to a House panel just retired from the department, Blaze News has learned. Rumors of Benedict's retirement came one day after Blaze News published an investigation showing the unexplained activity by the U.S. Capitol Police officers who discovered that bomb, and they were overseen by Benedict. The announcement surprised some of Capitol Police because his contract with the department was going to end on December the 1st. He could have stuck around. He joined the Capitol Police December 4th of 2023 as an assistant chief for the protective and intelligence operations, which included counter surveillance teams. Previously, that job was held by Yogananda Pittman. This is the man who succeeded Yogananda Pittman. All right. Sorry, I'm kind of falling on that. Before he joined U.S. Capitol Police, Benedict was the pipe bomb incident commander for the United States Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, aka the ATF. In the post, he oversaw the ATF's response to the J6 pipe bomb threat. Allow me to break this down slightly further. Sean Benedict was the on-scene commander for ATF pipe bomb teams when they found the pipe bombs on January 6th. About 2 years later, he took the post that was in charge of the counter surveillance teams, the dignitary protection, and the intelligence unit, aka Yogananda Pittman's job, when she went off to Berkeley. This is all under Biden. So he went from ATF to United States Capitol Police. And as the Capitol Police officer guy, chief there, he was instrumental in blocking the testimony of the 2 men that you see on the screen that found pipe bomb number 2 when Tom Massey's team tried to ask them questions. And Tom Massey referred to him as a handler. Now, he was an assistant chief, but he was on meetings that did not require his presence as the senior supervisor there, which seems like this is what we are implying from all of this investigation. Sean Benedict took over the cover-up job from Yogananda Pittman, if that's what was going on there. That's kind of the belief. And he answered questions when the officer was being asked or the special agent was being asked that his employee didn't get to answer. And here's Tom Massey talking about the thing that I've asked you guys. How did they know that there were only 2 bombs?
And then my next question, which elicited the oddest body language I've ever seen in a meeting and no real answer, was, well, so then you went looking for another pipe bomb, right? You found 2 of them within 30 minutes. You must believe the whole place is riddled with them if you're finding them this quickly. And I actually knew part of I watched video of where he went after that. They just kind of wander off. Right. Their job was done. They had found the 2nd pipe bomb. They never looked for a 3rd or a 4th or a 5th pipe bomb. And they didn't have an answer to me for why the search for pipe bombs was over once they found the 2nd pipe bomb. No answer. Weirdest meeting in the world.
So the question is, was it an inside job? Was it something that was handled by United States Capitol Police, placed there, then covered up by U.S. Capitol Police, and then covered up additionally by the FBI's prosecution and their refusal to name a subject. I'm going to read a quote from this thing here from Tom Massey. He said, I went from 90% certain that some Capitol Police were involved in the J6 pipe bomb to 95% certain. And now I'm 99% certain after this news story. That's what he said during that interview, which we played a little bit of the week before. He said, I'm doing this on probability. The probability might even be higher than that. The officers were not seen searching any other areas for explosives. After extensive video review was made available and reviewed by Blaze News, they did not continue the search after the DNC device was found at 1:05 p.m. on January the 6th. Now, that seems pretty wild. All of that is pretty nuts. They went out there to the locations where the pipe bomber had been the night before and then found nothing. Now, I want to just make sure that I get the bombshell piece of this, which for some reason these guys put in the freaking last line of this. I don't know why. Gentlemen, you're killing me here. You did not reveal this story the way that it was meant to be revealed in a way that it was shared with me. Like when Steve Baker shared it with me, I was like, oh my God, this is nuts. Not only did the replacement for Yogananda Pittman come from the on-scene commander from ATF to go over there now to Capitol Police, and who also kept guys away from being able to share information. You go, well, how do you know that they're working with the FBI or they're part of it? Let me read this. Sources have said that the two special agents who are known to the Blaze, which means they know their names, are still with the United States Capitol Police. The two guys on screen who found pipe bomb number 2 are still working for United States Capitol Police. That's not crazy. The one who discovered the bomb is now the Capitol Police liaison to the FBI, which is the agency charged with investigating the pipe bombs. And his partner who accompanied Benedict to meet with Massey still works in the intelligence section. The guy who found pipe bomb number 2 is now the person who controls information flow between the United States Capitol Police and the FBI. He visited the bush where the pipe bomber had been 17 hours before, and there's no chance that anyone could have seen that. And then found the bomb in under 12 minutes from leaving his car. And now he's the guy that interfaces with the FBI. And remember, the lead investigator on the pipe bomb case for Tom Massey's office, Marshall Yates, now is at the FBI as the Assistant Director of Congressional Affairs, and he's threatening Tom Massey's staffers with fraud investigations on behalf of the FBI. Do you see how this could all work together? This is not like one guy being crazy. This is not drawing little strings and pins on the wall. This is straightforward stuff. Okay, so I'm going to sum it up because when we go in and explain how bad Kash Patel is doing in a second here, I'm going to lose my mind. Somebody placed 2 devices the night before on January 5th, and the FBI got within 1 door of being there. More on that soon, I think, because that story continues to be investigated. The person that the Blaze has alleged dropped those bombs was a police officer named Shawnee Kirkhoff, and Shawnee was also seen at the Capitol the next day blasting people in the face with pepper balls, even though she was a trainer that trained people not to shoot people in the face with pepper balls. In other words, using less than lethal force in a potentially lethal way. Now we have placement alleged by a Capitol Police officer. But forget that. Let's just say that's not true, that we don't know who the pipe bomber was. The people who found the bomb the next day, one of them was a woman that Julie Kelly seems to think was involved in it, and she was part of the wireless service, which is called FirstNet, which provided stuff to law enforcement. And she claimed that she found it and she was super observant and it wasn't there beforehand and she was doing laundry. And so, I don't know what that means. Whatever. Maybe she was meant to find it. But the person that actually called it in was security for the Capitol Hill Club. That's who called it in to law enforcement. And they set off the area. And then you dispatched 3 teams of counter surveillance guys, 3 teams total, to search all of the Capitol Hill area. And one of those teams went directly to the bush where the person had lingered the night before after dropping pipe bombs. And then went directly to the pipe bomb, found the bush in under 8 minutes, and found the pipe bomb in under 11 minutes and 30 seconds. And then stopped looking for bombs. And that guy is now the liaison to the FBI when it comes to sharing information. The member of Congress who was investigating the pipe bombs had a member of his staff go to the FBI and then become the liaison to Congress for the FBI. And the person who was the on-scene commander for the ATF, for their bomb unit, took over the job of watching all of the intelligence section and the counter-surveillance teams and resigned the day after Steve Baker dropped his report that these guys went directly to the bomb. And he was the one who was keeping the Capitol Police officers who found the bomb from testifying or talking to Congress in a transcribed interview. This is not a huge conspiracy. It's a really narrow conspiracy if that's what this involves. If these people are actually involved in the conspiracy, it's like a dozen people, which is what you'd expect. A tight-knit group of people that had a plan. What we're missing are who told them to do it, who helped get the operational pieces together, which could have been ATF, by the way, because they look like freaking training devices from a federal agency. And then, why is the FBI involved in the cover-up? Because I don't know that they had to know beforehand, but they sure as hell know what's going on now. And they're refusing to acknowledge any of these stories. This is like what a late-stage republic looks like. It looks like a Praetorian Guard exercising a regime change through a color revolution. There's a reason why Mike Flynn is out talking about it right now. There's a reason why people are feeling very unsettled about what their government has been up to. And there's a reason why anything to distract from this kind of stuff would be great. If we could just go back to the Biden era good or Biden era bad and everybody that they did and everything they did was bad and we're totally different. But it's not. And it's not, because we've actually been able to see that the stuff that was being investigated under Biden and some of these questions they had about Biden, they're not solved. These Afghan that are here running unvetted, the Trump administration didn't solve that problem day one, like so many other things that were promised day one that didn't get done. Here's Pam Bondi, who more and more, I'm going to play this because we're going to go a little bit longer today because this needs to be told. Pam Bondi, listen to her pattern of speech and tell me that you don't hear this. She sounds like a shitty WWE wrestler, right? I'm going to grab my microphone real quick. Like, imagine your favorite WWE star, Hulk Hogan, right? And they deliver their lines, but they do it really breathlessly because they're doing athletic-y stuff. They like fly into the ring and then they like jump up in the air and they get right in the face of you, brother. And I'm going to tell you that this is the way that it's going to be. And this is the thing that I have to say. And the next line will sound like this. That's what Pam Bondi's vocal pattern is. I just realized that that's what it was. The vocal pattern that she and Kash Patel have is professional wrestling hype job stuff. Tell me I'm wrong. Listen to her breathe at illogical times. I thought it was because they were just bad actors. No, they're doing WWE word delivery.
If just pray, everyone pray today for these two soldiers, these two guards, the man and woman. But if something happens, I will tell you right now, I will tell you early, we will do everything in our power to seek the death penalty against that monster who should not have been in our country.
We will do everything we can who should not be in our country, right? This is like The Rock delivers it. That everybody delivered their lines this way.
Heard that top Democrat, top Republican on the House Armed Services Committee are going to join what is happening in the Senate, a bipartisan call for more information on what's happening
Watch her run
with
backwards.
These strikes off Venezuela, off the coast there. We've built up a military presence, a very strong one there. There are a number of lawmakers asking for a memo
we're talking
from the
about
Office of Legal
narco-terrorist
Counsel that supposedly provides the legal justification for what's going on. Will that be declassified? Will you turn it over to lawmakers or make it public in any way so we can see the legal justification for what's going on?
First of all, horrible question. 33 seconds to ask your question. It was actually even more than that. We're talking about narco boats in Venezuela. Remember politics. This is Ronald Reagan's rule. They can ask any question they want. You can answer any question you want. Here's Pam Bondi doing WWE Tough Guy Talk. Ready, go.
Yeah, Shannon, for 1 minute, jumping back to D.C., we have made 6,800 arrests, 640 firearms have been seized, and the Guard, it's under appeal, but our Guard is still allowed to be there and functioning in D.C., and in fact, we're sending in 500 more Guard.
500 more Guard. And let me tell you, brother, this is the way it's going to go.
They're not operating right now in Chicago and Portland based on the appeals, but they are up and going in D.C. and in Memphis. Back to Venezuela. We are committed to taking out these narco-terrorists. President Trump is, Marco Rubio is, our entire administration. And that goes back to Joe Biden letting these foreign terrorist organizations walk into our country, come into our country through Mexico. They are narco-terrorists. What you're showing on the screen right now are...
What you're showing on the screen right now are boats which cannot walk. And they did not come in through the southern border. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on when they say this. Some of these arguments are really difficult to follow, but the hype and the energy is good. So it makes me feel like someone's going to get hit with a chair real soon.
Terrorists, and they are being blown up. We are not going to agree. You know, these Democrats don't want to agree with us. It's crazy. The drugs that are flowing into our country from these terrorists are killing our children. And if Donald Trump won't protect, if the Democrats won't protect our children, Donald Trump will. By any means we need to within the legal realm of our society. And that's what we're doing. As far as a classified memo, I'm not going to discuss that, but I will say Venezuelan drug dealers.
All right. And there's just all this breathing in between. There's so much excitement and energy, but it's just really badly delivered. That's why wrestling is hard for some of us that are used to seeing real actors. That's just not how people talk. Maybe that's been the thing that I've hated about Pam Bondi from the beginning. They just slip because they're delivering pre-written lines that they know are going to hit, and then they don't do it well because they didn't practice enough because they're cocky, because they've been on TV a whole bunch, but they're doing a lot more TV. It's all this tough guy talk, and it's not real. Okay, and so that's going to take me to where we're going to go, and I did want to cover this. The shipwreck that is the FBI. And the reason this is relevant is because who's supposed to investigate terrorism and stop them from doing the job? They claim that's what the FBI does. They don't do it, but that's what they claim. Who's going to be the ones that do complex investigation into fraud that Somalis are doing and white collar? I remember that we had white collar investigations into people that were Indian in origin that were stealing tens of millions of dollars during the COVID, whatever it was, Payroll Protection Act. And the FBI just was like, I'd rather do something else. Let's go after J6ers. That's easier. The reason why this is a problem is because there are legitimate functions for these agencies if they did them, and they do not. Instead, they just chase hype, or they run on this fraudulent idea that they're going to solve problems, and they've never even touched the problems because half the time they were complicit in creating them. All right. You may hear a Spotify ad here, which is to say if you're on the audio, you may hear an ad. If you're listening on Rumble, thumbs up, bump us up on the board. I know this is a longer show. Today's stuff, all this stuff is relevant. I think it all ties together. YouTube, thanks so much for watching over there. Give us a thumbs up. You guys are awesome about doing the thumbs, by the way, and it does boost us in the algorithm. If you're watching on X, you can watch us on a monetized platform. We don't make any money on X, but watch it there. I'm happy to share the message. You guys are great too. Make sure you guys are part of it. We've gone from I don't know if you guys can see this on the screen. If you're listening, you can't, but look, bam. We've gone to a red on air because we are going into the red season. After Black Friday, we go from blue to red. I don't know. All right, let's assess. Is Patel doing a good job? That's the question. Simple question. Asked of Donald Trump. People asked on Alex Jones early on, what's going to happen? I was like, I think they get removed this year. I think they should be removed already. I cannot fathom why they are still there. But you tell me if this is a genuine Donald Trump saying this guy's great, or whether this is, I'm really getting sick of this guy.
And there would be nothing like it.
Are you planning to replace Kash Patel as
No, he's doing a good job.
This week,
Kash Patel? No, he's doing a great job, I think.
This week we saw those cases against James.
No, he's doing a great job, I think. I don't know. Maybe that sounds good to you. Doesn't sound great to me. Doesn't sound like he's really behind it. And maybe it's because he's doing such an awesome job at the prosecutions. Remember, we're going to get the deep state. We're going to go after the government gangsters. Let's get into the absolute shit show that is the interview with Jan. What is Jan's name? I don't know Jan. I always want to call him Jan. Jan's name is whatever. I'll scroll down past it in a second here. I've got some pieces. 9 key takeaways from the exclusive interview with the FBI director done by the Epoch Times. Just so you guys are clear, when we start talking about propaganda, the Epoch Times was the news organization or media outfit that produced Kash Patel's podcast. There is no safer place for Kash Patel to go than to go to Epoch Times. And their senior editor and the person who put together this story is Jan. There his name is Jiliek. I've met him. I don't know how you even say his last name because I just don't watch his stuff. I don't find him compelling or interesting. He's a nice man in person. He's super nice. He really is. But there could be no squishier, weaker, softer butt-kissing interview than what was done there. So let's go to the 9 key takeaways as the people who interviewed him said, and then I'll play some stuff. Response to firing reports, whether or not he's going to be fired. I just played it. He said, we're faithfully executing the president's mission, wildly successful in historic fashion. Great. The dismissal of the Comey case. He talks about that. Let's just play a clip about dismissing the Comey case right now. You guys are probably wondering, is Jim Comey going to prison? I told you early on, he will not. You tell me if you believe this.
A criminal case against Director Comey was recently dismissed. What is your reaction to that?
Well, because it's pending in terms of appellate status and what we are going to do for the next steps, the judicial process can make whatever determination it wants, but we, the FBI, and our partners at the DOJ have numerous options to proceed, and we're executing on all those options. So we're not done.
Any detail available?
I would say stay tuned for right after Thanksgiving, and you'll see multiple responses, in my opinion.
This isn't about Epstein or 9/11 or JFK or RFK. It is, but it isn't. It's about a bigger thing. If you're lying about that, you're lying about everything. Who's on the Epstein tapes, folks? Who's on those tapes? Who's in those black books? Why have they been hiding it?
What about the Epstein files, bro? Stay tuned is not the way that you tell people that you're doing a competent investigation. That's just my experience. He sounded like garbage. This entire interview is a joke, and I don't want to play all of it. It's 32 minutes. It is not hard-hitting. It is the softest, squishiest thing. So here's another thing. Murder rates dropped to the lowest in modern history. Murder rates in 2024 averaged 5 per 100,000, a decline of 15% from the year before, 1% higher than in 2015. Statistics show approximately 17,000 people were murdered in 2024. So they're talking about it dropping 25% lower than it was previously. Here's the problem. Here's the problem that Podcast Dan and Podcast Kash would have immediately called out. A bunch of cities are not reporting this stuff. They're not doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. The statistics are garbage. They were garbage under Biden. They're garbage under Trump. They're garbage because these cities look bad. Here's the funny thing about how this works out. When you work in the FBI, being able to claim that there are more of a threat actually is really good for you. That's what they traditionally would do. And if you're in a local government and you're based on like your job as a police chief is, you do a good job as a mayor and then you keep the police chief that was there, they want to have low statistics. So the FBI was always reverse incentivized. They wanted higher statistics because it said there was more of a need and a threat. Locals do not want that. So they just underreport it. And if we don't report it, it didn't happen. We don't take that report. We don't give the FBI the crime statistics for them to be able to say, well, New York looks like this. It's like, well, just don't report New York. And major cities are not included in these crime reports. So these stats are garbage, and they always were. But they keep touting it like it's a win. That shows you how freaking shallow it is. There's another one on here. Number 4, arrests of the 764 network has skyrocketed. He made the claim in the actual interview that they have increased the arrests of 764 network affiliated subjects by 490%. I went looking through the DOJ releases. As far as I can tell, they've arrested 7 people. Skyrocketed to 7 arrests. The reason why 764, which they keep calling a network, but I don't know why, because every time you hear them, they go, it's loosely affiliated. They don't know each other, but they share this sort of ideology. I think the network they're talking about is the internet, from everything I can tell. So this 764 network, which isn't really a network because these people don't really coordinate, but they all sort of have this same sort of tactics, which are just basic grooming tactics that have always been used by people. They're mostly underage people, underage young men, disaffected scumbags, sure. The way you save your kids from this is really easy. Don't let them on the internet unsupervised. It's super easy to do. That's how you do it. They claim that they've recovered 6,000 children, but I don't know what that means, and neither do you, because I don't know what a recovery looks like. That's not an FBI stat that I recall. Recovery? Does that mean they found their bodies? And are they all part of the same thing? The FBI recovered 6,000 mission children. I think they mean missing. Anyway, I'm just reading what they said, and I'm just telling you that it's so easy for you to be able to tell that 7 arrests is not a massive skyrocketing of arrests. The fact is they had 1.5 the year before. By the way, they recharged one of the guys who was already doing time. So this is silly. This is how you claim high stats without getting anything. They're mapping out the money tied to Antifa. Oh, well, that's good. I think at the turn of the new year, you're going to see some very righteous prosecutions and investigations, also known as stay tuned. Promises with no delivery. I feel like Dan Bongino would not accept that back in the day. Fentanyl trafficking has been disrupted. How do you know? Because he went to Chinese and he talked to the people in Chinese. And then they said, well, we're not going to send it anymore. And they claimed that they saved tens of thousands of American lives. Got it? Cool. Espionage arrests are up 40%. This actually probably is legit, but it's still not very many. The number is like 8. It's just, I'll have to look up how many espionage arrests. They don't do a lot of espionage arrests. They might even be less than 8. I guarantee you it's less than 10. Do you know how I know? Because you just don't get espionage arrests. They just don't happen. So this is also garbage. This is made up. All of the stats that he was touting are garbage. And you'll notice that they don't use hard numbers when they need to use a percentage. The percentage is a relative increase as opposed to an absolute increase, which is not very high. Now, the Biden administration did stop them, the FBI and the agents doing the work, from going after the Chinese in a big way. And so there were cases that were sitting around waiting to be prosecuted. I'm sure they finally decided to pull the trigger on some of these things. Their focus on eradicating illegal foreign intelligence operations in the U.S. led to a 40% increase of a very, very small number to an equally not very big number. And then he has a response to critics, which is funny. I think I actually have that as well. Actually, I thought I grabbed that. So give me one second. Let me see if I can find the clip of him talking about the girlfriend scenario, which is pretty freaking silly. He was asked whether or not he is the one who's paying for, or who made the decision to put the girlfriend under a protective detail. And I think he ended up claiming that that was not the case. I may have to go grab that clip. In fact, I will. So let's just listen to him say a little, I don't know, prayer for the people. This is the other uncomfortable sort of thing he does. He gets out and speaks extemporaneously and not very well. Watch this.
I'll begin my remarks and end my remarks the same way, with prayer for our fallen soldiers, prayer for our law enforcement community, prayer for our National Guardsmen and women, prayer for our brave prosecutors at the Department of Justice and the offices of the D.C. United States Attorney. We must come together as a nation, especially on this Thanksgiving Day, and remember the sacrifices that so many are making around the world and around this country to secure our freedoms under President Trump's brilliant leadership and administration. I'll provide an update on the case as follows. It is an ongoing investigation of terrorism. Make no mistake about it. The FBI is leading out on this federal assault on a federal law enforcement officer investigation on many fronts. We immediately, with our law enforcement partners in the Metropolitan Police Department and the interagency, secured the scene, seized the weapon, sent in our evidence response team immediately to collect evidence, and started doing block-by-block canvasses. We are looking for and interviewing witnesses. The firearm and other materials have been sent to our Quantico laboratory already yesterday for immediate analysis. That work is ongoing.
He just goes on to say, like, this is like what people do in investigations. I don't know why nobody knows that this is how FBI investigations work, but like they're doing the normal thing. The thing that was most embarrassing is he literally pulled the Charlie Kirk thing one more time. The Charlie Kirk thing is when you say we have the subject in custody, but we don't. He did the opposite of it this time with the DC guard case. He said, we're looking for the subject, even though the guy was already in custody. Like, how does Donald Trump tolerate this man and say he's doing a great job when it's pretty obvious that he's way out of his depth? I'm going to give you this, and then we'll end with the girlfriend comment, which is gross and silly and a complete lie, an absolute false statement. He makes the claim that he's not in charge of who puts a protective detail on who. You guys will have to hear it for yourself, but here first, let's go ahead and hear that they're looking for a guy that's already in custody.
You can see behind me, we have assembled the full force of both the federal and state and local law enforcement agencies to bring bear all of our resources to make sure we find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act. And make no mistake, they will be brought to justice.
Okay. And all of this against the backdrop of something that dropped out on the national stage, and Miranda Devine just put out a piece, and I will put a link to it in the show description as I always do underneath in the comments. This is a piece done by the New York Post talking about source reporting and analysis of the Federal Bureau of Investigation under the leadership of Kash Patel. It is a pulse check written as a intelligence analyst, and is put out by the National Alliance of Retired and Active Duty Special Agents and Analysts of the FBI. November 2025. Here's what's crazy. These are the same people who called out DEI and all of the failings and the junk that went on during the Biden administration. So just like me, they recognized that the previous administration sucked, did a terrible job, and made Americans less safe. They also recognize that this buffoon who's standing in front of you is an absolute clown and continues to beclown himself. And I'm going to read from the story that Miranda wrote, because some of the stories in here, not only can I personally validate because they are bureau-wide rampant. They're what's called rumint at this point, RUMINT, rumor intelligence. It is very, very good. It's like word on the street. I still get rumint from the FBI because I still have a lot of friends that are, not a lot, but some, a fair number that will talk to me and share these funny stories. All right, so Miranda Devine's article is entitled Damning Report Labels FBI Rudderless Ship under Kash Patel. With him and Dan Bongino, they're more concerned about building their personal resumes than doing the work of the FBI. Hence, today's shipwreck analogy. A rudderless ship is a direct quote. Patel is facing withering criticism from an alliance of active duty and retired FBI agents and analysts days after the White House denied media reports that the president was about to fire him. You know Trump, by the way, he never says what he's going to do until he does it. A troubling new report card for the first 6 months of Patel's leadership concludes he's in way over his head and his deputy is something of a clown. These are direct quotes, according to the alliance in which 2 previous reports warned about crippling DEI and politicization under the Biden administration. They said the same things that I said when Biden was in charge. This is the same FBI. It's just maybe worse. The Patel-led FBI is described in a 115-page report as a rudderless ship and all effed up. I'm going to give you guys a link. If you want to read the 115 pages or scan through it, they have source reporting. They tie them to either a region. Sometimes they keep them out. This is over on New York Post. This is very easy. In fact, for those of you that are asking in the chat, I will link it to you right now. As you ask, I shall deliver. Again, you'll find it in the comments below when you're listening after the fact. Patel is described by multiple internal sources as inexperienced, with one source saying he has neither the breadth of experience nor the bearing as an FBI director to be successful. Let me be real specific about this too. You don't need experience. Actually, these people are not being fair to Patel. Patel can be awful. Almost anybody that is sitting in our chat right now could be FBI director. As long as you can get up and you can put your shoes on, if you can put on a suit, you can straighten up your tie, and you can go and deliver a written statement with a little bit of practice, you too could be FBI director. The FBI director is not requiring a significant depth of experience to be decent. You just have to be honest and you have to be able to dress the part. That's pretty much it. What they don't recognize and they don't say publicly is that the FBI deputy director requires significant amounts of experience and skill inside the FBI. And I've been bringing this point up to Alex Jones, and I've been bringing it to anybody who listens to this podcast for a long time now. It is required that you have institutional knowledge, and Bongino does not. So in order to have a successful FBI director, you just need someone who knows what they're doing in the number 2 spot. And he doesn't have that. And he doesn't have the depth of experience either. Another self-professed Trump supporter said Patel is not very good, and he may be insecure that he lacks the requisite experience or the measured self-confidence to be FBI director. All of his speeches say the same. He's desperate to try to impress people, and he sucks at it. An additional source described him as very personal and likable, while noting that he created a culture of mistrust and uncertainty in the ranks because he doesn't actually do things very well. And he hasn't been paying attention to the things that we tried to warn him. We showed him where all the pitfalls were, and we told him what the snakes would do. And he went and did it anyway. Some of the heavy criticism stems from his behavior in Salt Lake City after the Charlie Kirk assassination. He gave premature public remarks, potentially jeopardized the investigation. He took credit for the work of other agencies after the suspect was arrested. And he was known for yelling and swearing at the agent in charge, or what I referred to as scream crying due to recounts of people that were actually on the phone call. He and Patel were criticized for arrogance and obsession with social media. One source said they didn't need to stop talking, stop posing, and just be professional. Oh, if you guys listen to Alex Jones, you guys have heard me say that to him as well. Just shut up and do your damn jobs. Spending too much time on social media and PR, often too concerned with building their own personal resumes. This is a really damning report. And there's a bunch of little anecdotes in there. One of the best is from a source they refer to as Alpha 99. It's Alpha Papa 99, which is, I think, probably like something about reporting party or something like that. Anyway, this is known as the case of the medium-sized raid jacket. You're seeing one of the raid jackets that he's wearing right there. On September 11th, 2025, the day that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, Patel flew to Provo, Utah on the FBI jet, but would not disembark from the plane without an FBI raid jacket, according to Alpha 99, a highly respected source who served in the FBI for multiple decades. By the way, I have validated this independently as well. Patel did not have his own FBI raid jacket with him, and he refused to step from the plane without wearing one. The FBI special agents in Salt Lake City, Utah, were busy working on the Kirk case, and they had to stop what they were doing and run around the office to find an FBI raid jacket, a medium-sized one that would fit him. By the way, this is not all that common because nobody in the FBI actually wears raid jackets on a regular basis. I never wore mine on duty. Never. Not once. When a jacket belonging to an FBI female was delivered to the plane, he complained that the two areas on the upper sleeve did not have Velcro patches attached to them. They have these two little like hook and loop areas that were empty. And he would not leave the plane until he had two patches to cover the area so that members of the FBI SWAT team actually had to take off their own patches and ran them over to Patel at the airport so that he could cover them up. And then those patches were attached to the loaner FBI jacket so he could then disembark from the plane. That did not make a positive impression. The director was not happy. By the way, he kept that jacket. He ended up stealing it from the agent, and he kept those patches, as I understand it, which was also a source of frustration. Alpha 99 also said that Patel did a disservice to the FBI by breaking with Bureau tradition and norms, taking credit for the good work of other agencies. Yeah, saying that I'm leading this man on, I'm doing all this stuff. These are just small, stupid things, but they stand out in a big way when you're trying to go out there and impress people who are actual professionals. And there are some, whether we like it or not. Another situation at the FBI Academy, he was said to be upset when he heard a discussion taking place amongst a few dozen FBI personnel about his request to be issued an FBI firearm. Yeah, because he carries around a gun, even though he didn't go through the requisite training that it takes for an FBI agent to carry a gun, because he's not an FBI agent. He also wears a badge, which is also really weird. These are all things that is how you lose respect as a leader. It's by pretending. It's by being a cosplayer. It's by being the Make-A-Wish director, as they call him sometimes. Alpha 95, a different one, was dismayed by an order to conduct polygraph examinations to find out the people that were critical of the FBI director. The report says that Trump derangement syndrome remains alive and well, so that's why Patel is out there polygraphing and trying to figure out who talked bad. All of this stuff is utterly and ridiculously unserious. And by the way, he could have fixed all of this stuff because we actually gave him a 20-plus page plan to solve these problems. And then you get into the abuse of the plane and a bunch of the other stuff. And lastly, I will just tell you the story about the girlfriend and having a girlfriend protective detail is the most unserious thing ever. And he was asked about that. And in his interview, this is what he claimed. I think this is how we're going to end the show today.
I want to give you the opportunity to set the record straight on a couple of things that have been in the media a lot. And one of them is, the allegation is there was too much of an effort in terms of the security detail, like an overprotection of your partner, Alexis Wilkins. How do you think about this reporting and these allegations?
Well, first of all, thank you for letting me address that. I think it's disgusting that an agency head has to even address the fact that their partner's life is continuously being threatened. We treat my partner like any agency head treats their partner, with the authorities that are in place already, following all the rules and regulations. And when any individual across any agency head and their respective spouse or partner has a threat to their life, we come in hard. And unfortunately, there are multiple threats against Alexis's life that have caused us to properly secure her safety. And that is done independently by career FBI agents. I don't have any part in that. They make those decisions. They are the ones doing the security backgrounds and security analysis. And the people on social media using it to generate clicks and trash are jeopardizing the safety of her and other great Americans. And we are going to protect them every step of the way. We are not doing anything any agency head has not done before us.
Yeah, you are, because you have a girlfriend and you're not married, and that's not a thing that we do. We don't take care of people that are not related to you, and you're not related when you have a partner in life. She could walk away tomorrow. She's a security risk. And whistleblowers came out and said she wasn't actually even vetted by the FBI, which is another thing that was put out in Washington Times the other day. He just claimed that he did not have any say in whether or not she got a protective detail. Put him under oath and ask him that. and then we'll bring forward the people that can prove otherwise. This dude is a clown show, and he's out there protecting like this girl who is a public figure who has taken this on voluntarily. It's not like she's like, if you came after my wife, I wouldn't get an FBI protective detail. She just got me. But at least she'd be out of bounds because she's not doing anything publicly. Here's the FBI director's girlfriend who totally is not a public figure per her argument, and yet does everything she can to prove that, in fact, she is a public figure. And she goes out and she's entering more and more the public arena on areas that I have no idea why she's even qualified to. She's apparently a spokesperson for the American border story and people who had a rough time and that their kids were killed because of fentanyl or something. Here she is. We started with propaganda. I'm going to end with propaganda and emotional music. Here we go.
Alexis Wilkins here, spokesperson for the American border story. This Thanksgiving, our Angel families have a special message of gratitude for President Trump, his historic administration, and everything that they have been doing to support this mission, and in turn, honor their lost loved ones. I can't possibly say it better than they can, so let's hear it from them.
Happy Thanksgiving, President Trump. We appreciate all your efforts on the border.
Anyway, so there's that. I don't even know what we're doing anymore. Like, we're such an unserious, ridiculous country with the people that are running these things. You have a 27-year-old young girl, unmarried, no kids, dating the FBI director, claiming to be a devout Christian while dating a 45, 46-year-old Hindu guy coming up on Christmas. And you're putting out these nonsensical messages. I kind of popped off on Thanksgiving and I was like, maybe give it a rest with this crap. Like, stop pissing on our heads and telling us that it's raining. So, how's that to kick off a week? I know this was a long program. I feel like we've been sitting here for hours, and we kind of have. Thank you for listening. If you have, guys, make sure you like these videos. If you like something on it, cut any part of it you want, by the way, and put it out there. You can share it any way you like, including people who don't like me. I don't care what you do. Here you go. Join us on Spotify. It's a great place to find the show, KyleSerafinshow.com. You may hear a Spotify ad again here. Seems like we've been going long enough. That's the best way to catch it. I just think because the audio and the video control is great. If you had any problems with the stream, that's where you go. Locals, you can support us, KyleSerafin.com. We do a call-in show. You guys can always call in and have some fun with us there. Like the video on YouTube and Rumble and on X, wherever it is that you're hearing it. I did bring you a palate cleanse in the spirit of Thanksgiving, in the spirit of being a little bit silly, which we are. I played this for my wife. I thought it was really funny. I hope you do too. Enjoy this little cleanse as we walk into the week that reminds us about, the really important things that matter, like our best friends and nostalgia and that time that we look back on.
I was alone on the porch with my boy one night, just me and him. And I looked at him and he looked at me and I said, would you rather have $10 million in your pocket right now, or for one night, and one night only, get all the boys back together and have a bonfire? He looked at me and he said, are you fucking retarded? Of course I'm taking that money. I have a family. I need that money. I don't even like half our friends. I'm just stuck with them from high school. I've outgrown them like 3 separate times. And I'm just chained in this group chat. And I don't even know who's who anymore because someone got an Android and now all the bubbles are green. And it's really ruined the group chat. It's really ruined the chemistry anybody had going. I don't even know if everybody can see the memes or the GIFs. And Mike, he hates Mike, man. He was telling me how much he hates Mike. Mike cheats at golf. We all know that. And I'm pretty sure that cheating from golf is starting to transfer into his marriage. He's doing some real shady stuff when the sun goes down. On and off the course. I'll tell you that right now. I get it, man. A lot of our friends they're 35 years old. They're still single. It's scary. It's like being around a loaded gun with a penis. It's scary. I gotta distance myself from those guys too. This guy kind of opened my eyes when he said that, actually. I stopped talking to him. I realized we really don't have much in common either. I don't even think he knows my middle name. So yeah, I'm taking that $10 million as well. And I'm just gonna chill. Maybe start a company or something.
I don't even know you guys. I'm taking the $10 million. I'm out. How many of us have outgrown our group of friends more than once? All right, that's it. That's all I got. I just thought that was silly and funny. It's the real use of that kind of music, like sticking it to the propaganda. God bless you guys. Thanks for joining me for this long ride. We'll have a little bit shorter stuff for the rest of the week. But the sense of humor remains as we continue to sort of paddle down this ridiculous river together. See you again tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.